All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostle elders, the great millstone who rule well. And salutations to all you brothers out there pushing this word in love, truth, sincerity, and humility. Once again, it's the brother Shatir from the Chicago camp coming back to you with what I hope is another quick and edifying sit down. And this popped up on my video feed. And it says panic industry surges as more Americans fortify their homes to prepare for the worst. And to be honest, if you're not part of the hopeful elect, you're not getting out of this. It doesn't matter how much you prep. It doesn't matter how expensive your bunker and your fort is. You're not going to make it. All right, these prophecies have people scared. All right, because at first, and I always enjoy giving this testimony about how when I first came into the truth, say about oh no, almost 12 years ago. This year will be 12 years. Wow. When I first came into the truth, and we used to have the ICBM missile sign with Russia and America, people used to scoff the hell out of that picture, saying that that's not going to happen. That's for a time far off. That ain't going to happen. Fast forward 5 years later, being in the truth, when people saw that missile sign, they turned the other way and kept walking. How much more now? Almost 12 years later. All right. These prophecies are scaring people. And you know what? That reminded me of something. I'm going to get two precepts. I'm going to get appointed time. I think it's in Amos. Habakkuk. Habakkuk 2 and 3. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Correct. This vision was set for an appointed time, but at the end, and it actually is the end of the end, it shall surely speak and not lie. Because what are you seeing all over the news? Israel, Iran, Kim Jong-un. Hey, any plane flying over my country is going down. You mess with Iran, we join it. Putin, America, you shoot off one missile, we about to go to war. We about to help Iran. All these other countries are just like, you try that bullshit, America. We ready to launch them things on you. You want the smoke? You're going to get all the smoke. And people are now starting to see like, this is real. This is real. And all these protests that you have amongst the commoners against the elites, whether it be for the economy, especially the whole Palestine and the Israel and Iran thing. Hey, this is getting extremely intense because folks are like, man, we not, these countries are serious about bombing America. If you guys do something, stop it. Just stop it. And folks are seeing that America is not going to stop and that America is going to back Israel in any way, shape, form, or fashion to make sure that the ultimate goal of the conquering of the so-called Middle East is established. And it reminds me of another thing that I said while I was talking, where it says, what is that saying that vision? I want to say it's the vision is far off. Yep. Ezekiel 12 and 26. Even though I could read more than that, but I'm just get to the point. Again, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, behold, they of the house of Israel say, the vision that he seeth is for many days to come, and he prophesieth of the times that are far off. Right? When I first came into the truth, as I mentioned before, everybody scoffed that missile sign. And then fast forward 5 years, when we showed that sign and put it in people's face, they turned the other way and kept walking. How much more now? It says, verse 28, therefore saying to them, thus saith Yahweh power, there shall none of my words be prolonged any more, but the word which I have spoken shall be done, saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And what is that word? That only chaos and death and destruction is coming to Babylon the Great. They are coming. All these things are coming to America, and these folks see it and they are scared. These prophecies got these folks shook. So we're going to watch this video and we're going to get some more scripture.
Bomb shelters, secret passageways, gun rooms, and flammable moats may sound like the stuff of Hollywood. But across the country, they're parts of some people's plans to protect themselves against the worst. That's according to a recent New York Times Magazine report that chronicles the rise of the booming panic industry. Ellie Rogan spoke with Coralie Kraft, contributing photo editor for the New York Times Magazine.
Coralie, thank you so much for joining us. What's behind the rise in people wanting to prep for some sort of doomsday scenario?
Prophecy.
So the people that I spoke with said that there was a huge surge in business post-pandemic and also, in the lead up and aftermath of the recent election. I would say that many of the people who are interested in installing these types of hidden gun ranges and panic rooms and things like that in their homes, many of them said that they were afraid of things like another pandemic, financial collapse, or, even nuclear war.
And the notion of prepping has been a fascination on the pop culture scene for a number of years now. How do you describe this kind of mainstreaming of the panic industry and of preparing in this way?
I think that as more and more people are impacted by things like pandemics, by civil unrest and, demonstrations and activism in their cities, by financial collapse, as those factors hit a wider and wider population, it makes sense to me that more of us would be interested in this type of, what can I do in the event of a disaster scenario or a doomsday scenario?
People in the middle class you report on are becoming more interested in this. These companies are getting more calls from people who don't have millions of dollars, but they do want to invest in some ways to, as they see it, to protect themselves.
That's completely right. Yeah. So, there are bunkers that are prefab and might cost someone $20,000 instead of $100,000 or $10 million. One of the people that I spoke with said something like, the bunkers that I'm selling are for people who have $20,000 to spend, not $200,000. They make $60,000 and drive a Chevy pickup truck. They don't drive a Ferrari. They don't drive, fancy cars and things like that.
What do we know about any correlation between the amount of money you have to spend on one of these things and your chances at actually surviving some sort of cataclysmic event?
After speaking with several people who are in this industry, I think that there are certainly some clients who are thinking very actively about exactly how they will survive, the event, they call it the doomsday event. I think that also a lot of them are living in the anxiety of the now rather than the reality of the future, if that makes sense.
It does. That's really interesting.
Look, the reality is they still fucking smoked. Okay? As I mentioned earlier, if you are not a part of the hopeful elect here in Babylon the Snake, aka America, you are not going to make it. As we go, and I think it's in the same book. Set Mark. It's in Ezekiel 9:4. And it says, and Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Okay, and we've gone into that word mark numerous times, but you know what? For edification's sake, we'll still go into it again, because it's talking about a mark of exemption. I think it's the Wa. Yep. Desire, mark, as a sign of exemption from judgment. And what's the judgment that's coming to America? As I mentioned before, chaos, destruction, death, disease, famine, ultimately culminating in thermonuclear destruction. ICBM missile fire. Okay? So all this prepping, getting a $20,000 bunker or a $20 million bunker, it don't matter. If you're here in America, all that money you all are spending is in vain. Because when the Lord gets through with Babylon the snake, it's going to be reduced to nothing. What does the scripture say? It's not going to be one stone left on top of another. Let me put it on pause and try to find that one. You know, I don't want that one. That applied, the stone thing applied to something different. But that's okay. We have Revelation 18, and I'm going to start at 1, and I'm going to skip through. It says, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Okay, we're going to scroll down. And it says, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire. For strong is Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, who judgeth her. Scrolling down, it says, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors, and as many as trade by the sea, stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? Okay, so it's already telling you Babylon, modern day Babylon, America, is going to be thrown down. And we're going to go get 2nd Ezra 13 and back that up. Was it 13 and 10? Uh-huh. Second Ezra 13. It says 13 and 6. It says, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it. but I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. Meaning that the fathership was so daggone huge, Ezra couldn't see where it began or where it ended. It says, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his head, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burnt them up, everyone, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived but only dust and the smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So yeah, this is the judgment that's coming forth to America. You got chaos, destruction, death, disease, famine, culminating into the missiles. And then that, while the missiles are dropping, all right, the chariots are going to come and put the icing on the cake and burn this entire place called America to dust. So all you folks that are prepping over here, thinking that you're going to survive the purge, you're going to survive the famine, and you're going to survive the missiles, you are horribly mistaken. Because it's not just going to be Iran aiming missiles over here. It's damn near going to be every single country in the entire world, minus America, Israel, maybe one or two more allies, if that. Okay? Those missiles will be coming over here. So if you, it's in vain. These prophecies got you scared and you're prepping, but I'm here to tell you it's all in vain. As I mentioned before, if you are not the hopeful elect with that mark, that the Wa, that's going to be exempt from the aforesaid judgment that I have read in the scripture, you will be literally smoked. So that's all I want to say on this. I hope you all were edified. Till the next time, we're going to say Shalom.